Damn, son, where'd you find this?
Let's go. Welcome to the Life of Phys Podcast. I'm your host, Tyson Martin. On this episode, I have Raheem Nelson. Raheem is a photographer and classically trained cartoonist based in New Haven, Connecticut. He went to the School of Visual Arts and completed his education with a BFA in cartooning. He has a background in traditional cartooning as well as oil painting. Currently, he creates his personal and professional work on an iPad and his trusty Canon. He specializes in graphic recording, portraits, and pop art. Raheem's work has been featured by NFT NYC 2023, Arts and Ideas, the Shops at Yale, New Haven Cultural, the Arts Council, the Thai Bar, and Power to the Patients. Raheem recently released an illustrated book called The Mind of a Saint with hip-hop artist Skyzoo. Now let's hear a word from our podcast sponsor and get to the show. The Life of Phys Podcast is lit by Harlow. Harlow is on a mission to empower creators to elevate their creativity with lighting kits made to last and built to inspire. These lights are bold, beautiful, and powerful because Harlow believes that your lights deserve to be seen. To learn more, follow them on Instagram at Harlow Creators or online at www.harlow.com, and don't forget to use our discount code Tyson10 to save 10% on your order.
My name is Raheem Nelson, and I'm a visual artist. I paint and draw on an iPad. I have an oil painting, cartooning background. That's my foundation for art. And I'm also an avid photographer. I create photography for myself. I'm really into portraits, still life photography, urban landscapes. I go to New York and I travel a bunch of places. So I'm really into photojournalism as well. And I do photography and video for the Milford Arts Council. I'm the marketing director over there. And I think I'm in my second year now. So I pretty much do the concerts. I do photography, video for the concerts, social media marketing, and just creating an overall narrative to help put the message out there about what the Milford Arts Council is about. So I love being able to use my artistry in not just ways to create financial gain, which is great, but also to be able to help people and to be able to tell a story and get people in our space to be able to enjoy shows and concerts. And then for myself, photography has been a great way to connect with people and to travel. And my wife enjoys photography as well. So we do a lot of that together. And it ends up being like one of the cornerstones of our relationship. So the arts is just like in every facet of my life.
And don't forget one of the best dressed men on Instagram. Always
much.
On point. Every time I see you, you're just dialed. So that's super cool. I love how it's such a huge part of your life, the whole, your whole artistic background. And like we were saying, I before when we got on here, I love how you just will light your peanut butter jar or, your coffee or just something yourself. You do selfies in your kitchen, but you also show the behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And that's what I want to build in this space, which I find is lacking, is true community and true people who are willing to help others.
Yeah.
A lot of people want to preach community and pushing things forward until it comes to actually having to step up and do it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, I noticed you have a new book out.
Yes.
You want to tell us a little bit about that process and who you worked with?
Yep.
The Mind of a Saint.
Yeah, The Mind of a Saint Illustrated. This is an art book that I created with a friend of mine. He goes by the pen name Skyzoo, and Skyzoo is a hip hop artist based in Atlanta, formerly born and bred in Brooklyn. It's been a 2-year project. I met Skyzoo years ago, really enjoy his music. So I started off as, fan of the music. I love lyricism, hip hop. It's just a big part of the music I listen to. So it got to a point where I saw his album covers. I was like, oh, those are really cool. He hires artists to either create, the album covers for him, or he'll have like these really cool graphic designers create the album covers. I just had an idea. I was like, oh, it'd be cool, if I was able to create an album cover for him because I really enjoy his music. So connected with him on social media. I share my art with him and everything, did some portraits of him and things like that. And there came an opportunity in New York because I used to work at this spot called the Thai Bar, and I'm wearing one of their products now, actually, a pop-up shop in New York. And he had released, I think, his second or third album. And he put something out on Twitter saying, well, if you bought the album and you're in the New York area, like, hit me up. I might come by and, just thank you for getting the album. It's like, yeah, sure. Why not? Like, we, establish a relationship and everything. So I hit him up online. He comes by the shop. My manager is super impressed. We end up talking, and I go to his show later. And then over the years, just continuing to nurture this friendship and this business partnership that I wanted to turn into. And he was like, hey, like, I'm looking for a photographer for one of my events, which was in Dumbo, Brooklyn. So I went by, did it, took some photos of him because he was doing an album talk, just really digesting and breaking down all the lyrics. So that went really well. And he released another album. And I was like, hey, I want to interview you on it because I really want to like unpack all these lyrics and just what you're talking about. Because he'll create albums talking about like gentrification and the Black Panthers and growing up in Brooklyn, being a block away from Biggie Smalls. And just like these really amazing narratives that are just like really beautifully told. Like he's more than like a hip hop artist, I'd say. Like he's a writer, he writes for others, like ghostwriter, he does a ton of different things. So that interview went really well. And he created an album after that. I interviewed him again. And I didn't understand the reference point of the album because it was a concept album based on a show I'd never seen. So I was like, okay, like just tell me about the show, like what do you think of it? So he essentially took this character from this show, and the show is called Snowfall on the FX network, brilliantly told show. John Singleton created it, passed away unfortunately, so the rest of his crew finished it. But Skyzoo was able to take the perspective of this character, Franklin Saint, who is this up and coming kid who becomes a drug kingpin in the 1980s Los Angeles. So it deals with Reaganomics, systematic oppression, racism, all these different concepts. So the show, I ended up watching that after listening to the album to have a reference point to the music and to be able to understand just what I was listening to. I listened to his albums back to back multiple times anyway to catch the double, triple entendres. So I really wanted to just have a higher level understanding of the music. So we had talked, the interview went great. I watched the show. I think by the time that album came out, maybe like season 5 or 6 was done. So came back to him and I said like, hey man, like I really like this music. I think I want to like try to create some work with you. So the character Franklin, his name comes from Franklin from the Peanuts. That was something John Singleton came up with. And he wanted to create this character like Franklin from the Peanuts that was an odd man out, really smart, in an environment where like he seems like he's out of sorts. The Franklin Saint character growing up in 1980s LA was like almost too smart for his own good. He's in a rough neighborhood and everything, but he was like that nerdy kid that you wouldn't really, take a chance on or anything. So throughout the course of the story, and this kind of similar to Breaking Bad too, I think the lead actor was inspired by Bryan Cranston. You see this character arc of him being like meek and passive to being like aggressive and really just going for what he wants. So after listening to the album in its entirety and watching the show, I pitched Skyzoo on an idea. I think it wasn't even a book initially. I think it was like an art show, like to do different tracks from the album in an art style to convey it in a visual way. So you could listen to the music and then have something to look at. So the idea was to have an art show in Los Angeles based on the album and based on the show. So different layers to it. And then over time, it became an art book. The cover, which shows Franklin riding the bike, is a reference to the first season of the album where he's going around selling his product on a bike, keeping it inconspicuous in the bag before he gets to the next levels of his empire. The style is influenced by Charles Schulz Peanuts the namesake Franklin from the Peanuts, and being able to take these concepts that are, heavy and dark and kind of present them in a almost a whimsical way, like it's serious, but I wanted to have that juxtaposition. So I pitched him the idea of doing that, having the style influenced by the Peanuts, but it's also its own thing. And it was a really beautiful process because I was able to work with him directly on it. I'd say, hey, I'm thinking about drawing this. This represents track one in the album. What do you think of it? And for the most part, like I nailed it. Like I'd been listening to the music so much and we had established that relationship. I know what type of music he creates. He's also has done visual art in the past. So he has like a point of reference. And I have a background in cartooning. So I was able to really kind of tap back into that and tell the story that I wanted to tell, which was piggybacking off of his album, which was piggybacking off of the show. So very layered type of project. And I think my two favorite parts of this project were being able to work with him directly, build that rapport, going from like fan to friend to collaborator, all within like the span of like, I think 5 to 6 years was like really great. And it's just like a dream project. Like there's so many things I could say about how it was to work with him and put out this book. We sold it for 1 week only. We're going to be looking at doing like some book signings and things like that, maybe doing like a re-release. We wanted to make like a special limited edition product that his fans could enjoy, my fans could enjoy, whether you've seen the show or not. I think you can get something out of it. If you watch Snowfall, I think there's like another layer that goes with it. And then, of course, if you're listening to the album, you can flip through the book as well. That's actually something I haven't been able to do yet. Just been like really busy, making sure the marketing was on point and getting the book out. But it's just something I'm really proud of. It's like only February, but just having the culmination of this 2-year project come together, being able to finally share it with the world, it's just like the best, really. Like I love being able to create digital art, digital photography, but having my work in a tangible form, like it's absolutely incredible.
Well, I'm super proud of you, man. I'm looking so forward to my copy of the book landing. And now that you've given me those layers, that's something I'm going to have to do. I'm going to have to find the show, see where it is up in Canada here. I'm
Yeah.
going to have to get the album. I'm going to have to listen and just be able to piece it all together. Because a lot of people, they'd look at it, they'd be like, oh, super cool illustrated book, worked with a rapper, awesome. They
Right.
don't know that story, right?
Yeah, it's the story.
So that right there is so incredible. I am truly blessed. Thank you for sending me a copy.
Oh, my pleasure.
It will take prominence in I call it my book wall of fame.
Oh, so cool. I love that.
So Raheem and I met on social media, on Instagram, through a light brand, through our love for the brand Harlow.
Yeah.
We aren't going to talk a ton about them. They make great product. For this episode, in my description, the discount code will be for Raheem. So when you click on it, it will go and help Raheem continue to create amazing art. So for anyone who clicks on the episode notes, it'll go directly to your discount code, to your link there, Raheem.
Very cool. Appreciate it.
No problem, man. What else is in the pipeline? I know since we talked last, you've traveled. You've gone to Barcelona. Man, you've gone. I just keep watching you. Keep leaving.
That's what my boss said the other day. She was like, "Oh, like you travel so much. Like, I don't get to travel as much as you do." But yeah, I think I'm really letting that part sink in. That my wife and I have been able to really plan some amazing trips. The context for Barcelona is that it was my second time there, but my wife's first time. And this was a trip that I wanted to like create bespoke for her. Like I didn't want to just make it about the places I've been and things I've seen. I really want her to be able to not only see this place that I enjoy so much through my eyes and my experiences, but to do a lot of the things that she enjoys doing when she travels. One of those things is being by the water. For her, being by the water is very healing. and I wanted to create that experience for her. One of the first days we went to the beach. It's called Barcelona Beach, and it's near this beautiful hotel that she really enjoys too, the W hotels. In my opinion, Barcelona has the most beautiful W hotel, like hands down. When we're flying in, you could see it. You could see the beach, stretching out as far as I could see. And the W hotel in Barcelona looks like a giant blue fin. Like it's really beautiful. It reflects off of the sky and everything. And it's just like as clear and blue as the water looks. So we were able to enjoy the beach, had like I think 2 beach days, went around like, dancing, cocktails and everything, having paella, of course. And then on the one of the last days, we went to the W Hotel to actually get dinner there. And they have a rooftop restaurant at the very top, and like you're way off the ground and everything. You're pretty much getting like a almost a panoramic view of Barcelona, and just being able to just see it, it's like so pristine. And this was not an experience I had the first time I went because I was trying to like pack in a lot of like almost like creating my own hiking tours. So I didn't really do the restaurant thing. But being able to just see my wife's face and see how excited she was, just be able to like soak up all this international travel. Like we met a really cool photographer actually, just on the beach. Like he was just messing around with his camera. He was like, "Oh, can I take some pictures of you guys?" And we hadn't seen his portfolio or anything, but just like his energy and how he was with us and how like he posed us and directed us. I was like, okay, you know what you're doing. And he sent the photos, I think, a few days after we got back home to the US. And like they were just phenomenal. Um, so being able to just create these experiences where my wife and I can travel, whether it's a place I've been or, a new place for both of us, I think it was just definitely one of the highlights of the year. Being able to like take we use a Canon Rebel T3. So we took a lot of pictures of each other, like for our accounts and everything. And then I like to take a lot of landscape photos. Like we found really cool spots. I forget the name of the church. I think it was like St. Mary's Church, possibly. It has a really great rooftop view of the Gothic Quarter, which is like one of the old town parts of Barcelona. So it was really great to not only revisit places that I went before, get her perspective, but then also like, wow, like we're able to just travel like this because like she's a licensed clinical therapist. She makes money at that. She has her day job. I have my day job, and I have my artistry. So we're able to like just make a difference in our communities, and then also pour back into ourselves with like this high level amount of travel we'll be able to do. So it was just a great trip.
Man, it's so cool how you can turn everything into such a positive experience. Travel something that I want to do, my wife wants to do. We really haven't had a chance. Hopefully with the podcast picking up in popularity, and I'm finally going to start releasing some prints, things like that. I can start bringing some secondary income that can go into that travel savings fund. I know you went to LA as well. Was LA before Barcelona or after?
Los Angeles was after Barcelona. I think it was just like it was actually maybe a week before the fires happened in Los Angeles, which is just wild. And my prayers go out to everybody out there that was impacted. And I think what they experienced just helped me have a greater appreciation for travel in general and just California. California and I have a long history. My parents were out there, I think, for maybe a year and a half or so. Like I have my first memory in California, which is pretty interesting with my dad and everything. But we were in, for the most part, Anaheim, and then we were spent some time in Santa Monica as well. We went there to support my bonus daughter because she is a phenomenal basketball star. She's also a photographer too. Like she does so many different things. So proud of her. But she plays for the Emmanuel Saints. So she is just a phenomenal basketball player. So she plays for the coach's name is Andy Usanov, and he has been at it for a very long time. I think he's going to like his 50th year or so of coaching, and just being able to watch her travel and get these experiences and bond with the team and see her play. I think they won like all their games too while they were there. So it was just amazing. It was a family trip too. So we went to support my daughter. My mother-in-law came, my sister-in-law came. It was my wife and I, and we were just able to just stay and enjoy the games and just have some of that West Coast energy, the food, meeting new people, and just watching her play. So it was just a lot of fun to not only be able to have like these couples trips that we have, but like family trips too. And I think it was my mother-in-law's first time in California in general. So it was just great to see.
That's such a cool experience and you shared it with everyone. You had the whole family there. Everybody got to have a good time. They got to watch the games. They got to experience California life.
Mm-hmm.
That's what family's about.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what life should really be about, is enjoying those moments. It's just like photography, right? I'm a documentarian of moments, because moments come, moments go. Something we shoot today could be gone tomorrow.
Yeah.
Right. And no matter how often we shoot it, it's always going to look different.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so why don't you tell people a little about your passion for photography? I mean, you do things that I wouldn't even think of. I mean, I'm looking at your page now. You shoot your instant noodles. You shoot peanut butter. You light them. Like you're doing all this stuff. You do self portraits. Like you have your little setup for self portraits. Raheem does behind the scenes videos on his Instagram page, which the link will be in the show notes. Everybody should hop on and go follow him because he's putting out some great work. So talk a little bit about your process, and then as we taper off of your process, let's talk about what photography means to having a positive mental health.
Oh, absolutely. Okay. So I'll start with a little bit about my history about photography and why I shoot what I shoot. I think when it comes to still life photography, that has most likely come from my love of cartooning, and which kind of branched off into me discovering like pop art. Like I'm a big fan of Andy Warhol, and I like that he would take the mundane and like make that exciting and make that cool. So like that also has me interested in branding and how branding can capture one's attention, and it can make you think of like nostalgia. And there's like just a lot of things that branding does in terms of like tugging on the heartstrings, so to speak. I like photographing objects in a way like where they're more than inanimate objects. I like bringing life to my still lifes, and that's what I enjoy painting too. I am classically trained as a cartoonist and also as an oil painter. So when I'm in different studios, whether it's like in a school setting, like when I was going to art college, they give us an object and they say, this is what we want you to capture today. Sometimes it'd be like a gesture drawing where it has to get done quickly, and you're just looking at the forms and capturing that as quickly as you can. Or it was like, you can make this more long form. So transferring that over into photography to me started off as a way to just capture reference photos for my comic books. And it became just so much more. And I think it took me a few years to just get comfortable calling myself a photographer. I made some money at it, and I do it because I'm passionate about it first and foremost. And now I get to do that on the regular for my job at the Milford Arts Council, which I really enjoy a lot, like doing conferences, concerts, connecting with people, capturing that shot. So the way I shoot a person is pretty much the way I will paint them too. Like for me, it's all about the eyes, starting with that, eyes being the window to the soul. Whether it's like a candid or it's something that's more staged. And then now just being able to teach myself about lighting in like the past year and a half, with the lights that I use. being able to use my knowledge of color theory and what do colors convey in photos. Having myself be lit red over here, but then have this white light over here to have that contrast. And then also being able to and willing to learn from other artists. I'm always looking at what other artists are up to so I can enhance my photography. Um, and I just know there's always going to be more to learn. So I always I'm confident in my photography, and at the same time, it's like, okay, yeah, there's always more to learn. Um, I actually started using my like a Sofort again, the Insta camera that they put out. And this was something that I took with me to Cuba a few years ago. So like this camera is like strapped with me internationally. And I just remember taking like these little Instax photos. And I think I took like maybe 5 or 6 packs. I used them all up, like I think maybe like a week or so before it was time for me to fly out because I was there for like 2 weeks, I think. But I used up all the film, connected with all these cool people through photography. And, like a lot of people haven't really seen an instant camera like in the flesh. So being able to go for photojournalism, make these connections, practice my craft, and help people share their stories was like really phenomenal. Like I only went with I didn't have a Rebel T3 that I have now at the time. So I literally just went with the instant camera and my iPhone, just taking whatever, struck my fancy, so to speak. But the instant camera really made it easy to connect with local Cubans and really be embraced by local Cubans too. I ended up doing photography for a birthday party, which was kind of wild. Like I didn't go thinking, I would be doing a friend a favor with a photography gig. But yeah, we were all really cool. I was like, yeah, I'll take photos. Like that's fine. So just doing it with the iPhone, doing it with the instant camera, and there was no Wi-Fi or anything, so they weren't able to like actually receive the photos. But like just the act of them having a photographer there, knowing that the moments were going to be captured and shared in some way, shape, or form was just really. I think it was a really humbling experience for me to be able to travel so far away from home, be in a completely different political climate, way of life, and almost kind of like slowing down and really taking my time with the shots and getting to know this family, and then just them having me come in and do this photography work for them was like, wow, like you're just getting to know me through this person that has kind of like been my tour guide. Because he spoke English, they were Spanish speaking only, so it was a lot of translation. So it was like that's probably like top 3 photography experiences for me, because I went to only declare that I was going to do photojournalism because I wanted to look a certain way for the government. It's like, hey, like I'm going to your island, I'm going to be doing this, like I'm declaring this. And it ended up becoming like this whole other thing. Like it was just so cool.
I love those experiences where it's you go for one thing and all of a sudden it just branches. Photography brings so much. For me, I grew up skateboarding and late 80s, early 90s hip hop were my thing growing up. Didn't matter. My skateboard was always with me. My headphones were always on. Back when I first really got into hip hop, I was a ton of Public Enemy.
Yeah.
Special Ed. And then moving forward, you got Tupac and Biggie and Wu-Tang and just all of these things that just defined who I just felt so close to that music and the way it brought me. And then I found a camera when skateboarding was taken from me due to injury. And then I went back home to Oregon and we're walking around my hometown and there's these kids skateboarding spots I used to skateboard. So I took photos of them and it's just full circle.
Yeah.
Right. So you get all these experience and all these emotions that this little box that captures light can bring to you.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. It fits in my pocket, or what your iPhone can even capture nowadays.
Yeah.
Like the camera on the iPhone's incredible.
Yeah, it is.
And I don't have that problem with people who shoot with a mobile device. Like there's so many people, oh, that you're not a photographer. No,
Right.
capture the moment, enjoy that
Yeah.
moment.
Yeah.
And if you're social media, you're printing 5x7, there's no problem with those files,
Right.
right? There was something I wanted to do because you are an illustrator and very talented. I have this graphic in my head that I'd love to talk to you about putting together for do some merch with it.
Sure.
And it's really up your alley because it's cartoon style.
Cool.
Now we'll get into a little bit of your Harlow lights because you have a few.
I do. Yeah.
Me as well. What are you using right now? What do you like? What are you lighting yourself with?
Yeah, yeah. So I'm so glad we're touching on the behind the scenes stuff that goes with it. That's something I've always prided myself on. So I've been watching a lot of YouTube videos just on lighting for like podcast style stuff. And I want to do a lot more videos myself. So I think this is where I'll be shooting and everything, especially when I'm looking at upgrading my equipment. So to my right, I'm being lit by my Harlow Mini. And that's been like an unsung hero. Like that light is amazing. I think for me, it's kind of replaced the functionality of my micro. Like I was using my micro for a lot of tasks that would have been better suited for the mini. So I didn't really know where it was going to fit in my lineup until I got it. Um, Especially since I was watching some reviews on it and they were talking about the barn doors and just how those kind of twist into place in a different way than the micro would. And I see what they were doing in terms of, wanting to look a certain way for the market and then kind of experimenting. So got used to that. Mini's great. Lit myself red with one of the gels because I wanted to have that contrast. With my photography and my lighting, I'm always looking to cinema to inform my visual language. Cinema and comic books. I love the drama. I love the bold colors and the lights, and it also informs how I dress too. So everything just kind of goes hand in hand. So that's that light. Also, my key light over here is the Harlow Mini Max, and this light has just been phenomenal. Like I use it for all of my studio photo shoots, personally, and then also professionally. Uh, I do something for my job where sometimes I'll go and I'll interview people for our spotlight email. So I'll go take pictures and I'll do video. The Mini Max has just been essential for capturing that. It provides me with all the light I need to, create the types of portraits that I want to create. And just, oh, you got it.
I'm using the Mini Max. It's right here in
Nice.
front of me.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I agree with you, man. That
Yeah.
the Mini Max and the Avant Max, they are incredible.
Yeah.
The Pro, I don't know if you've had the pleasure yet.
Not yet.
The Pro will blow you away.
Mm.
I'm actually in the process of putting together a project with local skateboarders to do night shoots at skate parks using two
Nice.
of their Avant Max X's, their weatherproof ones.
Yep.
But yeah, just the ability and what the Harlow brand brings to the light, the accessories, the barn doors, all the softbox options.
Yeah.
If you need a light, they have you covered.
Definitely.
Yeah. I love my Iris. My Iris sits in my camera bag everywhere I go.
Yeah. Mine's behind me.
I can see it plugged in there yet.
Yeah.
And I have both. I have the brown colorway and then I have the midnight colorway, which
Nice.
I'm a huge fan of the midnight colorway.
Me
I
too.
find that the black is super sleek. But again, my wife loves the retro. She loves the brown leather. So you can't really go wrong either way.
Right.
Sorry for cutting you off there. I just,
No, all good.
just got excited. I thought it was funny because I have the Mini Max light in me as well. What are your plans coming up? Like, do you have anything else scheduled? You going to get into some more projects with photography or illustrations, or keep pushing your fashion page as well?
Yeah. So for me, I look at what I do on a creative level and just in terms of branding too. I chop it up into three bits. It is art, style, fashion, and photography. So those three things I try to nurture and cultivate on a regular basis, like day by day, week by week. Sometimes work will get demanding, and maybe like I'm doing more art than styling myself and taking fashion photos and everything. And then maybe sometimes photography is on the back burner. So it's kind of like if I were to do like I'm probably gonna do an infographic on it at some point. Those are the cornerstones of not only my art business, but just how I like to move in the world as a creative person. Take the style and the fashion. To me, that is part of my personal brand, and it kind of informs how I show up in meetings, how I show up with clients, how I might go on site and have to do something with a client. So I'm training myself daily, like, hey, this color is going to go with this suit, and then these are like my mainstay pieces over here. So I can combine that. And then one project I had recently with the Thai bar, who I mentioned before, they commissioned me to create a lookbook for I think it was their fall winter catalog. So cardigans, turtlenecks, they're producing suits now. So just taking items that I own from them and creating like this really cool fashion lookbook. And that also helps me because when I was getting into dressing well, I started creating illustrations that I'd be able to use as like a point of reference to just say like, okay, like this is going to go with this. Because I'm a visual person. Like I need to see it once and then I can like repeat it, change it up. Like it just helps with retention for me. For art, I think I have 2 to 3 commissions that I'm working on right now, corporate commissions, graphic recording, and I think we definitely talked about graphic recording for the last time we're on, but I'll explain it for your audience. Graphic recording is a skill where essentially myself, the artist, will go into a meeting and I'm creating visual notes for a client. These can be used for a conference, talk, a Zoom call, pretty much anything where you're going to have a speaker or a group of speakers. And it helps with retention. It helps with audience engagement. People are like really excited by it. I was trained to do it in a traditional way, like on a foam core board with markers. And then I expanded and created my own business to do it, where I create these infographics on an iPad. So the client can get them delivered like pretty much as soon as the meeting is done. And it's just been great. Like that's been the most profitable thing and continues to be the most profitable thing that I'm doing right now. And it continues to help my career go to the next level. Like it's something I've won a grant for. I created graphic recordings for the city of New Haven, and I worked on a brand campaign for them because we were featured in the top 52 places to be in the world. And it was through the New York Times, I think. So the New York Times recognized New Haven, and then they hired me to create these illustrations. So I was able to take these infographics that I created for clients, and then I created an art show out of it, which is called Visual Notes. And that happened a few months ago at the Creative Arts Workshop in New Haven. And I had never heard of a graphic recorder taking their artworks and then putting them in like a gallery style format. Like I like taking art you might not see in a particular venue and then put that into another venue. So there's that. I'm also excited to talk a little bit about the fact that my artwork is in Bradley Airport in Connecticut. You know, like one of our major airports has my artwork on display. And they just reached out to ask me like if I was interested in it. And typically, like I don't go for like pro bono opportunities, like we're just promising you exposure kind of thing. I think art has a lot of value. But sometimes like I'll make an exception, like the way they pitched it, a lot of foot traffic. I really didn't have to do any work because they were asking for pre-existing work. So I just sent that to them. And I think it's part of their art and music series where they will have people perform on stage and then like my artwork is the backdrop. And so this is on their website, like opening up an entirely new audience. They sent me some of the photos of just the performance with my work in the back. And just circling back to the Cuba experience, uh, one of the pieces that was featured that I sent to them was a beautiful magenta Buick that I illustrated. Uh, well, I illustrated when I got back from Cuba because I wasn't trying to be on the street corners with a big iPad or anything. I was like, that's a red flag. So I took a great reference photo for it, and then I turned that into a painting when I came back. And I think that's one of the pieces that encapsulates my artistry. Like, this is somebody that's willing to travel, get new experiences. And when I travel somewhere, I leave my ego out of it. Like, I don't want to like encroach on what anybody else is doing. Like, I want to be there. I want to be capturing, whether that's photography or painting or sometimes both. Like, a lot of my trips usually involve both photography and painting. So the fact that this piece that I created from an experience in Cuba was at Bradley Airport, it's just like everything just continues to build.
And you're able to use, when you go to these places and you're capturing images, are you looking at it as this is going to be a great photo? Or are you looking at it like, okay, I'm going to capture this as that reference point for a painting because I see a painting instead of an image here or instead of a photo? Is that kind of how you look at that experience?
I think it kind of depends. For me, when I'm creating art and I'm traveling in general, I like to go in with a plan, but I like to leave room for experimentation and freedom. So it depends. Like, when my wife and I went to the Picasso Museum in Barcelona, I think I had a clear plan, like, okay, I'm going to enjoy these works of art, but then I'm also going to create studies of Picasso paintings. That was something that has really always helped me grow as an artist. And I'm going to reference this book I have here too, Still Like an Artist from Austin Kleon. This book was life-changing. It helped free me up from feeling like, oh, well, I don't want to copy from this person or copy from that person. We all copy, like it's the way it goes. And the book breaks down like good stealing versus bad stealing. Bad stealing, like, oh, I'm just gonna copy this person's work. I'm not gonna make any changes. I'm just gonna copy one person instead of looking like a wide array of artists, photographers, getting inspired, and then turning that into something, like taking your influences and then kind of like turning it on its head and adding something. So I always go into every space, every art gallery, every experience, staying open. Like, I love what I do, and I know there's always something to learn from others too.
That's such a great way to look at everything. Um, do you take a lot of inspiration from books, art books, photo books, things like that, and just kind of jump at it, go like, okay, I kind of like that. Does that go into your planning stage?
I think what I do is I'll read something, look at something, sit with it, and then just see how it comes out naturally. Like, the Picasso stuff was planned. I knew I was going to come back home and create studies and everything. Sometimes I'll look at a book and like maybe it'll hit me like a few weeks down the line, like, oh, okay, like when I'm composing this piece of the Chrysler building, for example, like I'm going to paint it in a brushy way, like the stuff I saw at the Louvre, or maybe when I'm creating this portrait, it's going to kind of like look a little bit like Calvin and Hobbes. So just letting my influences flow through me. And if it's like something I was commissioned to do and they want a specific style, then I'll think of that. Or if it's something I want to do for myself, I will just kind of look to what I've learned to reference that and then maybe look at different directions I want to take my art. Something I want to get back to is creating like realistic portrait art. Like, that's something I've been into for a while. It's always about finding the time to do that because I really like to just like once I'm in it, I'm in it. And I like to just go from start to finish. Some of my favorite paintings I created. I did one of Solange Knowles that actually helped me meet my wife because she was not the curator, but she was the host of the art gallery show where I exhibited this piece. This piece of Solange was inspired by works that I saw at the Louvre. So like I painted her with a red hood and a halo that was flat, for the time when they weren't using perspective, weren't aware of perspective, and then having song lyrics written in the halo. So when I'm creating like these super intense, realistic portraits, like it's at least like a 6 hour, 8 hour sit. And that is most likely going to get divided because there's so many other things that I'm responsible for as like a husband, as an artist, as a marketing director. So sometimes I miss, just being like in my 20s and having like 8 hours free to just knock out a portrait. But it is what it is. But I enjoy illustrating celebrities, family members, self-portraits, of course, and kind of like either creating like these Black Renaissance portraits like I did with Solange, or doing something that's looks contemporary, but maybe it's like really brushstrokey in the backgrounds, and in the forefront, it's like more blended and everything. Like I've worked a lot to achieve the amount of realism that my portraits have. Like it's not like super hyper realistic, but it's realistic. Like where if you look at it quickly, like you may think it's a photograph. That's what people tell me. I don't necessarily see that in my own work. It's like I'm always seeing the stuff that goes into it. But yeah, it's definitely something I want to get back to with creating like realistic portraiture.
That's so cool. I wish I could paint.
Yeah.
I I love art in general,
Yeah.
but I didn't really find my connection. To me, skateboarding was art, so skateboarding was my art form.
Yeah.
And then after that, I don't even give me a paintbrush and a canvas because no, not going to
Yeah.
happen. But then I found the camera and it all connected again. So now, what is your creativity? So big part of the show, as you know, is to talk and discuss the connection between our creativity and our mental health. How important is your creativity to your day-to-day mental health functions?
Yeah. Extremely important. So one of the things I do is I journal. I journal pretty regularly. Sometimes it can be like short bursts, like something I'm thinking of or whatever, something I'm experiencing and dealing with. All the arts that I'm into have a place in enriching and enlivening my mental health. I will share a personal story. My parents are experiencing some health issues right now. They're definitely on the up and up now. When these things happened, and they happened like pretty much back to back, it was a lot to deal with. I remember being at work, um, and just having to deal with the impact of, what my parents were experiencing. Like it was a lot. And I know if I didn't have my photography and my fashion and my painting, like it would have been a much more difficult experience. And then having the courage to go to my boss and say like, hey, like my parents are experiencing this right now. It's a lot for me. Like, would I be able to take some time out of office, continue working, of course, work remote. But I think I took a week out of office just to be there for my mom, because like she had a very intense surgery and it was difficult for her to get around. And so while that was happening, then, something else happened to my dad. So it was like a double whammy of just like juggling these different things. So I know I would not have been able to have had the amount of composure that I had if it like wasn't for my art. Like it really helps keep me grounded. It helps keep me happy, functional, like even beyond functional if I'm dealing with something like that. Um, just that difficult. Like it was a difficult thing to experience. Um, and then being able to go back to work after that, knowing that they're still experiencing these things. A conversation I had to have with my wife was like, I need work right now. I need to be able to focus on something else for a few hours so I can have the energy and the headspace and the bandwidth to be able to support my parents. Because family is important to me. Like I want to make sure everybody's good. I get that everybody's getting older and everything. I want everybody to be around for as long as they can be. So just artistry, all my artistries help me just be the type of person I want to be for my family and the world.
Going back to what it's like on the other side, I'd never been in the hospital for an extended period of time.
Yeah.
And end of October, I found myself stuck in a hospital for 3.5 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
What the people go through who are in the hospital mentally, the strains, the struggles, those kind of moments where I'm not able to pick up my camera or create the podcast or do the things that, give me that little spark that I need for myself to stay up in a positive mindset. I was on a no contact order. I was in a room by myself, and, my wife would come in when she wasn't working. She took 2 weeks off so she could be there every day with me.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a mental struggle because you aren't sure what's actually even happening on the outside. You're so focused on trying to get better inside. So that support that you did by taking the time to be there for your mom and be there for your dad, as someone who just went through it a few months ago, they're forever grateful, because I am so grateful to my family for everything that they did, for everything that my wife took on. It's a big thing when I don't have an income for 10 weeks.
Yeah.
So, I commend you for taking the time for your family, because it is very important. And I don't know what it would have been like if I was in there by myself with nobody coming in, because I don't do well when I'm by myself in a room and I can't leave the room and I sit there and stare at a wall. So it does take a pretty big effect on your mental health. And the weeks after, that's the biggest one. The doctor was adamant. She was like, you have to take at least 2 weeks to 3 weeks at home to deal with the mental stresses and strains that your body and yourself have just been put under.
Yeah.
As much as I wanted to go back to work and get back into bringing income back into the home, a few days into my time home, I really felt that pressure release, and all of those worries I had and the emotions that I was holding in and the strains on my own mental health all came crashing down.
Yeah.
And it was tough. So, it's super important that family's there for people, especially when they're in the hospital, they're going through things. It helps keep them connected to the outside world. It helps them see a little bit of positivity in a time that was pretty bleak in my book. So, man, that's amazing. I think more people should take time off when their family members are ill, and give that time to the family, because those are the moments I'm going to remember, and not the little things that I thought were so important before I was stuck in there, right? So
I'm glad you had that support. I'm glad you're back on your feet, and I'm glad you really took some time for yourself with just what you experienced. I'm sure it took an enormous toll.
it was tough. The coolest part for me out of this whole experience that was awful was that it reignited my passion to capture moments.
Yeah.
That was kind of waning at the moment. I was just kind of like, I really don't care to shoot photos anymore. I'm kind of bored.
Mm-hmm.
But then not being able to do it, and using my iPhone in the hospital room to capture the sync or the IV machine or the EKG machine, or just these things to keep my eye working, really made me want to capture moments that sometimes I don't even think about. You just walk by and you look, you're like, oh, that'd be cool to shoot, but I have something else I'm more interested in. You just walk by. So stop, slow down, take it in, capture that moment, and move on. Because I don't plan. I'm not a planner. I just grab a camera and go. And I capture what my eye tells me that I need to capture.
Mm-hmm.
But I just had Mark Forbes on, and I learned from him, like, you just got to kind of have the ideas in your head, and you just go out and try to find those ideas. It's not a plan.
Yeah.
So like, he shoots laundromats in Australia, and he captures these most beautiful images of 2 chairs put together with a blue wall and a vending machine.
Wow.
And it's a powerful image.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of like, I like old, I like broke down, I like rustic. I want to continue to capture and share I want to try to capture more of my town and try to sell them to the restaurants and cafes and things to, maybe generate some more interest in my work and sell some
Yeah.
photos.
Mhm.
But, I'm horrible at marketing, so I just do what I can. Not all of us are experts like you, sir.
Well, if it's marketing help you're looking at, I'm sure we could work together on that if you like.
Well, I would like to welcome you to Team Feist because you're the way you carry yourself, your attitude, and just your overall person is someone that I would love to learn from and share ideas with. And, maybe we can offer mentorship to other younger generations coming up and we can work on
Yeah,
something together. Because I think that
definitely.
we have a lot to offer. And I feel like the more we can work together as a group with awesome, like-minded people, just the better the next generations are going to be.
Yeah, it's just ideas like that is, I think, what brought me to the podcast originally and brought me to your work. It's just like this openness, like no gatekeeping, talking about mental health and how it relates to art and just how everything is connected, like just fascinating to me. It's like what I'm interested in.
I appreciate that. You have to find a space that you really want to share with people. And for me,
Yeah.
the first few episodes, it was kind of really technically photography.
Mhm.
And then I was like, Ryan HK from Calgary, Alberta, he came on and he was talking about his cancer diagnosis and how he was parked on the top of a hill on a cliff ready to drive off. And then he talked about how he came out of that and all the struggles he went through and how hard he's pushed. And this dude is an incredible artist. He's got so much talent. I love chatting with him all the time.
Yeah.
But that was when I was like, you know what? People need to hear these stories.
Yeah.
So many people in the world think they're alone
Mhm.
or they think they're a burden.
Yeah.
And I tell every episode, I say it, I'm like, you are not a burden.
Mhm.
If you need something, send me a message. Send one of the guests on my show a message because all of them would be willing to talk.
Mhm.
And life's tough. Like we all go through those ups and downs.
Yeah.
And if we can build something that is a conglomerate of many people from many places around the world, it gives everybody the opportunity to talk to somebody, maybe even in their hometown,
Yeah.
or down they're 2 towns over,
Mhm.
or you talk to someone on the other side of the world because you aren't quite sure how to express yourself,
Yeah.
and getting therapy. Therapy is super important. It's been a
There is.
big step for me in the last year,
Mhm.
and it worked. I have a therapist who's very, 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 very strict about, we talk about things, and if I need to go and discuss that with somebody that it's affecting me, until I do that part of the step, we don't have another session.
Mhm.
And I'm the type of person that kind of needs that.
Yeah.
I need that no BS, straight to the point.
Mhm.
And when I was asked what I was looking for, that's what I said. I said, I want you to hold me accountable.
Yeah.
No BS. If I don't do what we need to do, then you tell me that, well, until you do it, we're not going to do this. Unless it's obviously I'm at a point where I desperately need someone to talk and vent to. But
Mhm.
for the most part, it's been very beneficial.
Cool.
So there's my ramble again. Always.
No, this is great. This is great.
Anything you want to give people words of wisdom, things to do, help them market themselves, or, continue building their journey, following that passion. And then where can they find you?
So I'll do the keeping on part of it, and I'll do the marketing part. Um, I think with just creating artwork in general, like if you're not sure what you're good at, or you're finding yourself, or you're rediscovering yourself in terms of your artistry, I think always be curious about yourself, about the world, about other people. Like it's just like this, almost like a circle of community. Like I don't think it's good to be an island. Like other experiences and like other people. And, art, like different art forms can be like a solitary experience. Like sometimes I'm just in the studio, like working away, but I'll take those moments to either text a friend, call a friend, hey, I'm working on this. What are you working on? So having that balance, like you do have to have, depending on your art form, like those solitary moments, whether you're shooting photos or editing, but like balancing that with a social life, with friends, family, that's really important. And it's just really great for your mental health. In terms of marketing, I think for one, work on finding your tribe. I would not be in a place that I am now without my mentors, without my peers and my friends. It all just kind of helps me not only maintain where I'm at, but to keep getting to different levels. Like I've got friends that are photographers, I've got friends that are cartoonists, animators. So even beyond my own field, I'm curious about what my friends over there are doing or my business associates. So again, like going back to that sense of curiosity, I didn't think I'd really be getting into like videography and like I am now, but like it goes back to my love of film. So like of course, like those two are going to be hand in hand. So to wrap that part of it up, I would say just be curious, like, and don't put barriers or limits on yourself. Like I went to art college thinking I was just going to be a cartoonist. Like there's a lot more out there and people are multifaceted. Like you might be interested in one thing another day and then, maybe you can add on something to that. So like don't put those boundaries on yourself. As where people can find me, I have my website, which is raheemnelson.com, or Instagram. You can find me. I have 3 accounts, one for art, one for style, and one for photography. At Raheem Nelson Art, at Raheem Nelson Style, and at Raheem Nelson Photo. I'm also excited about the YouTube channel that I've been building up for the past year now. I kind of let it go and I came back to it to revisit it. That's one place where you can find all of my content, like everything I might be working on. I try to have that be about art, photography, and fashion. The algorithm would try to tell you just focus on one thing. I wanted to try to do things a little bit differently, show people different sides of myself. So I'm working on a lot of behind the scenes content. I'm gonna be working on some talk videos. I'll be reviewing like different cameras I'm looking at and using. And I really want to put together like some great high quality tutorial art videos. That's something that's always been popular for my social media. So you can find me at Raheem Nelson on YouTube, where you can find all my content, shorts, long form videos also coming too.
I'll put all those links in the show notes so everybody can find you. Again, Raheem, my friend, thank you. Thank you for giving me the time and letting us re-record since we had some audio issues in the first one. Yeah, I look forward to putting this out and sharing your story with the world.
Likewise. Yeah, I can't wait to see it.
All right, my friend. Well, you have a great day.
You too.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Life of Phys Podcast. I hope you've enjoyed our show, and don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review. Your feedback helps us continue to bring you content and the stories of our incredible guests. And remember to stay connected with us on all social media platforms. It's at LIFE_OF_PHYS or on the internet at www.lifeofphys.com. Thank you for tuning in and have a great day.